What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about your ideal conditions for fishing. What you're really going to be looking for as far as conditions are concerned is you're going to be looking for lower temperatures, preferably, not necessarily lower temperatures of like winter type temperatures. I'm talking about more like low temperatures for summer. Something of the nature of anywhere between 62 degrees to 72 degrees are going to be your ideal temperatures. 72 degrees is a good water temperature, especially for flathead catfish. I'm going to try and focus around flathead catfish because that's what I know the most about as far as the ideal conditions are weather-wise. Now, I don't know about pressure systems as far as, how those affect the fish particularly. I'm not exactly a meteorologist, but I can tell you what sort of conditions I've had when I've caught the most fish. And I've caught my most fish on nights right before it is about to rain. So if rain is coming in, let's say you're fishing on a Thursday or a Friday and rain's coming in this weekend, rain coming in is always a good sign for fish because it means that those fish are going to pick up. It'll basically be like the dinner bell rang, They're going to be up, they're going to be biting. It's not always the case, but this is usually one of the conditions that leads me to catching some of the biggest fish and some of the most fish that I've caught. Something else that you're going to want to have taking place for you to have a really good fishing day is a light breeze, but not a whole lot of wind. And that's more for your equipment as opposed to the fish. I think the fish don't mind the water moving around a lot. I think that the more that the water churns up, the more the bait gets moving, the more things get picked up, the more the fish move around. Now, as far as your equipment is concerned, the more wind, the harder it's going to be to cast, depending on what direction you're standing as opposed to the wind. The harder it's going to be to keep your bobber in one position if you're using float. And the harder it's going to be for you to sustain those conditions to stay out fishing. You don't want to stand out there get windburn or anything like that. Of course, you always could just sit in the truck like I do when the weather gets too bad. Now, as far as rain is concerned, rain can be something that's nice for fishing. Some people prefer fishing in the rain. Some people simply will not fish in the rain. I personally prefer not to fish in the rain, but if it comes to it, I'm like the mailman when I'm out there fishing. Rain, wind, shine, snow, doesn't matter. If the fish are biting, I'm there. If it gets too bad, I'll pack up and leave. If the fish really ain't biting. I've caught some very big fish during the rain. I've had periods where I don't get a touch when it rains. I illustrated in another video that it's really 75-25 when it's raining. 75% of the time the bite's going to pick up, 25% of the time it'll just die off. I don't know why. Can't read fish's mind. I'm not a fish psychic. All I can do is give you my experiences, and that's been my experience thus far, is that a lot of the time when it rains, the bite picks up. Something else you're going to have to consider is what sort of moon you're landing on. Some people believe that the full moon affects whether or not the fish are going to bite. This opinion comes from several things. For some people, it's an astrological thing where they believe, the moon is a bad sign, it's bad luck. I personally am more of the mindset that the reason why they don't bite on a full moon typically is because the moon affects the water, the gravitational pull on the water. That's why tides come in and come out, is depending on what the lunar cycle is and the gravity that's affected on the water. I'm no scientist, but that's my opinion on it. It's similar to the reason why fish jump. A lot of the things that fishermen believe are true, but it may not necessarily be for the reason that they say. They may not have very good reasons as to why they believe those things. For instance, as far as why fish jump, some fishermen hold the belief that the reason why fish jump is because they're not hungry. Some fishermen believe that it's because they're hungry. Some of them believe it's because there's not enough oxygen in the water. And some people think that they just want to get a look at you. I don't know if the science on that is completely developed. I don't know if we will ever know why fish jump out of the water. All I can tell you is that most of the time when I see a fish jump out of the water, it's a carp. Now back to the conditions. Let's get away from that segue. Water temperature is going to play a key factor. Once a year, every year, a body of water turns. The hot water on the top of the water will reverse its location, and there will always be either cold water on the bottom, hot water on the top, right? And once a year it'll switch from that. It'll be hot water on the bottom, cold water on the top. And depending on what portion of the cycle you were in, as far as your body of water is concerned, that could affect the fish bite. Something else to consider is the amount of salt that is getting into your water, like minerals and stuff like that that's in the body of the water. Salt is what fish use to coat themselves in order to remain healthy. That slime that's on the top layer of fish, that comes from the salt that's in the water. It's not salt water, it's just salt that's in the water is used by fish to recoat their slime. Lower water temperatures in the area of about 62 to 72 degrees as well is probably when fish are going to be their most active. They're always going to be their most active at night. The biting hour is between around 8 p.m. to 6 in the morning, in my opinion. Those are the best hours. All the way up until 10 o'clock, you'll get bites. That's what they call the morning bite, is that little 5 o'clock in the morning to 10 a.m. Window. I personally like fishing the 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. window. That is when I get my most bites. I am of the opinion that is when catfish are most active. Yeah, you want a low level of wind so that you can operate your equipment properly. All those things, if you take those into account, you're probably going to have a good day. You don't want super high humidity. If it's too hot, the fish get lethargic. They lay down in the deep water and the cool pools. And then you also have to consider the time of year that you're fishing. Different fish go on the nest at different times. Blue catfish, I want to say from the back half of May all the way up through the entirety of June to the beginning of July. They are on the nest, and they're not all on the nest at the same time, but this is going to be your most miserable fishing portion of the year if you're a blue cat fisherman. Blue cats are going to be on the nest. They won't come up to bite. When they come off the nest, they're going to be all scarred up and they're going to be hungry. So the beginning of July is really a good part of the season for blue cat fishermen as the blue cats are coming off the nest. It's the opposite for flathead cat fishermen. Flatheads go on the nest at the beginning of July and come off either at the end of July or the middle of August. And the fall and the spring are going to be your best times of year for flathead catfish. We are gearing up to the best portion of the fishing season for flathead catfish. So if you have not already gone out, you are not too late. We're actually getting to the best portion of the year. Catfish go on the nest for about 9 days, and then they continue to protect their young after they hatch for a period of time after that. Depending on how big a fish is, really determines how many eggs that they're going to lay, how long they're going to be on the nest. But they won't all go on at the same time, so you can still catch fish during these periods. This is just going to be your most miserable period of time. So if you're thinking about skipping over a particular period of fishing, depending on what fish you're fishing for, blue catfish, maybe just skip the month of June. And if you're fishing for flathead catfish, maybe just skip the month of July. Now you can catch fish during these periods. If you don't want to stop, you ain't got to stop. You can catch fish during these periods of time, but these are just the ideal conditions. When they're not spawning, especially during the fall for flathead catfish, because they're fattening up, because they're getting ready to go on the wintering holes, or getting ready to hibernate. You're probably going to catch your most fish because they're biting on anything, trying to fatten up. Blue catfish tend to migrate. They tend to stay active during the winter. Not as active as they were during the summer, obviously, because it's cold. They're a little bit more lethargic. But you're not going to have that sort of situation with blue cats as much. But yeah, consider your time of year. Consider your temperature, what the water temperature might be, whether or not the lake is turning, what the wind is looking like, what the moon is. And these things are really going to determine how good of a night you're going to have. I'm sure that weather patterns as far as low pressure systems and high pressure systems are also going to affect whether or not these fish are going to bite. I have not taken a look into that specifically, but these are the conditions that you need to take a look at before you go out and try and catfish to determine whether or not you're going to have a good night, especially if you can only fish a few times throughout the season. Try to check your weather patterns. Try to check what the moon cycle is, and maybe you'll get on some catfish. This is the Flathead Catfisherman signing out. Hope you all have a good day. Bye.